The Fire Emblem series is a series of many ups and downs during its history. With the release of Fire Emblem Three Houses on its way to the ever so glorious Switch, I love it so much, I think it's time I reflected on the three Fire Emblem games on the 3DS. Because every one of the games has their good moments and their bad moments. So here is my review format for all three games. I'll talk about the story, then the gameplay, then the character roster, how much fun I had with them, and lastly, what I would do to improve it. So, to begin this triad review series, I'm going to start off with the attempt of a swan song named Awakening. Story. The story begins with your avatar and Chrom being the snot out of the generic Darth Vader ripoff named Valadar, and after defeating him, he attempts to finish both of you off, but before you two can leave after defeating him, your avatar suddenly stabs Chrom in the gut with a magical bolt. Then it comes to Chrom and his sister finding the tactician in the middle of a field, the amnesiac avatar, showing that what happened was a vision of what it is to come. The avatar can only remember his name, Chrom's name, and not much else. Frederick is skeptical of this and accuses him of being a spy, but suddenly, a village is attacked with all four stepping in to help save the village. Later that night, the four camp out on their way to Ylisse, with mysterious zombie-like creatures attempting to make Lissa their new meal, when suddenly a man named Marth appears out of nowhere and saves Lissa. They get to Ylisse, and the Avatar joins the shepherds with them marching on to Regina Ferox to request aid against Gangrel, who wants to start a war with Ylisse over vengeance for what Chrom's father has committed to Plagia in the past. Flavia explains the terms about getting aid, and the shepherds accept, with the terms being, defeat Basilio's champions. Then they encounter Marth again, and the two have to clash, with Chrom and his team being the victors. Soon afterwards, Maribel is captured by Plagian bandits, and Gangrel gets his war with Ylisse by the next chapter. In Chapter 6, Emmeryn is in the middle of an assassination attempt by Valadar, who ends up dead thanks to the shepherds, but is revived by a mysterious force, and Marth is revealed to be a girl. In Chapter 7, Emmeryn is being escorted, but is ambushed, then decides to return to help her people when she hears that Gangrel attacked Ylisse, despite the risk of being captured. Chapters 8 and 9 are dedicated to going to Plagia and attempting to rescue Emmeryn. Notice I say attempt. Chrom is forced into a cruel choice, to give up the emblem or to give up Emmeryn, since an ambush of risen soldiers thanks to Aversa stops them all cold. Not wanting to give Chrom the pain of a sadistic choice, Emmeryn jumps off not only to please Gangrel, but to spare her little brother Chrom with the sadistic choice and blood on his hands. Emmeryn's actions affect Plagia soldiers in Chapter 10 by them not wishing to fight Chrom and his men, and by Chapter 11, only the most loyal to Gangrel are left of his army. At the end, Chrom marries someone and has a child named Lucina. By Chapter 12, a new threat appears in the form of Valentia's army, wishing for global conquest, and they will take no prisoners, with the commander just outright killing a poor defenseless villager. By Chapter 13, Chrom and the gang had to get help from Plagia in order to cross and defeat this new threat. It's here where Marth is revealed to be Chrom's daughter, Lucina, from the future. In Chapter 15, the gang encounters a lady named Sayri, who is leading the resistance against Walhart and his army, with Chrom facing Cervantes, Pharos, Farber, and Yenfei, all leaders of Walhart's army. It all ends with two battles against Walhart, with Walhart being placed at his castle gate, and then on his throne. Finally, it ends with Chrom facing off against Grimleal, who wants Screama to destroy the world, a destiny Lucina went back in time to prevent in the first place, and your avatar is revealed to be Valadar's child, and forces him or her to unwillingly give Valadar the Fire Emblem so that Grima may possess the avatar. Chapter 23 seems to end the same way in the paralogue, but Chrom is revealed to not be dead and ends with Valadar's death, thanks to a clever little reversal. By chapter 25, Aversa is defeated when she tries to avenge Valadar's death, and Grima is slain by either Crom or the Avatar in the endgame. So, for the story, I would honestly say it can feel a bit jumbled or, what's the word? Scrambled in places. There are 3 arcs, but we honestly don't see a villain behind all of them on screen. Sure, saying Aversa manipulated everyone would be alright, but we kind of need to see one flow into another better. This isn't saying that the story is bad, mind you, but honestly, if the beginning would be facing the Grimleal primarily and having Valm and Plagueis Wars be secondary, it would flow so much better as it is, but it's passable. This one is going to be fun. Fire Emblem is the standard tactical RPG fun we all know and love. There is 5 item slots for characters, and a weapon takes up a slot. In every hit, a weapon gets rid of a durability. When the weapon's durability runs out, it's gone. There's also the Forge to increase your weapon's might at the cost of gold, weapon shops during intermissions between chapters, and occasionally battles between Risen or an Anna merchant who sells items. Units have a certain amount of movement depending on their class, with the more advanced classes always having one more movement than the previous class. Many of the classes are balanced in the way that you might want to have one of each to advance on to the next chapter. Armor units can tank physical hits, but they have the lowest movement, and magic hits can screw them over. Myrmidons and Thieves can dodge like no other, and have great crit rates, but they are locked into one-range weapons. Mages hit the resistance stat, which is typically lower for most other classes, but they have lower defenses and lower HP to compensate. Beast units have more movement than infantry and have bonus stats, but their weapons can't be upgraded and are rare. Flyers have higher resistance or defense, depending on the flyer class themselves, and have best movement, but arrows will kill them in one shot half the time. And archers are just useless all around.
It cannot be!
It's a little too OP if you ask me and half the fanbase. Awakening isn't that hard of a game, thanks to Pair Up, since the bonus stats can be given from a few levels worth to an entire ranks up's worth. Needless to say, it becomes easy to steamroll the game like it's nothing. However, Awakening did a huge improvement for the support system. Gone are the days of waiting 7,000 turns just to get Hollywood hooked up with Ninian or Urk hooked up with Nino, like it should be! But because of the pair-up system, supports are much easily gained, since the supports also build character for most of the secondary playable characters, instead of, "Oh, my chapter is done! Well, time to not talk until the end!" Which is a shame, because unless you want to wait about 60 turns, you wouldn't get the support at all, or rarely in other games. Another change to the formula was the introduction to casual mode to the West, which was enough to give the most radical diehard fans of the series a stroke. In most games, when a unit dies, they are gone for good, and since they are a named character with character, then it makes the loss even more worse. Couple that with luck still playing a factor in these games, and you get a recipe for salt. But with the introduction of casual mode to the West, you don't have to worry about a 1% critical causing you to restart all over just to keep your favorite character because Lady Luck decided to play a cruel joke on you. So all in all, for a Fire Emblem game, it does what it needs to, and it's still fun to play through, and it's honestly a good Fire Emblem game for a newcomer. Now, if this was a Marvel vs. Capcom game, then the characters would just be functions, and Disney would be laughing with some snorts counting their cash made from the product. But Nintendo never sees their characters as functions, and always tries to make them likable. We get characters like my boy, the Avatar, Vake, Stahl, Cordelia, Tharja, Maribel, Frederick, Gaius, Libra, and even the Togwell Pawn. The character roster is far from bland, as all the above characters are lovable and enjoyable to have in battle and outside of battle. Cordelia is basically all around great, same with Libra and Stahl. Pawn, Gaius, and Tharja are fast and deadly fighters who can dodge and take names. Maribel is best healer, Frederick and Vake are great tanks, but the Avatar can be anything he wants to be in this game thanks to the stat customization you get at the start, since you get to pick which stat he is good at and which one he isn't so good at. This amount of customization is ridiculous, since he has access to every class that isn't gender exclusive to either sex in the game. But character-wise, Frederick and Tharja are a bunch of hilarious moments. Tharja and Avatar support and Frederick and Crom support are good evidence of that. Frederick is the die-hard Crom supporter, since Frederick is his retainer. Tharja is a yandere who has a weird fascination with you, but she also has her sweet moments. Cordelia is a prodigy who hates being called a genius. Stahl is the average guy who is endearing in his actions. Fake is the Jersey Shore guy, but hilarious instead of annoying! And Henry is a crosses the line twice kind of guy. Easily a fun cast of characters, it is not hard to find a favorite. And this is just talking about the first generation, as surprise surprise, you get another generation of characters who travel from the future with Lucina, with one of them being the kid named Morgan, who is the best daughter, and if anyone says otherwise, they're full of shit! I had to set the scene with the introduction of Awakening. I just got done playing Fire Emblem 7 on ROM, and I was excited to play Awakening. I saw the demo, and I loved every minute of it. But that wasn't the only factor to my love for this game. You see, the 3DS library, it sucked at the time. You hardly had that many hits, but at least you still had the DS library. However, when the game came out, everyone saw it and everyone saw the demo, including myself. I remember when it came out that I rushed to GameStop, only to hear that Awakening copies were going to be a day late. Since I am not a patient person, I decided to get it digitally. And I loved playing through the game. I loved it so much that I was excited for every wave of DLC that came out. I enjoyed every week as it was like a new experience for me to see these new maps and the challenge with them. It was like Christmas every week. I enjoyed the festival DLC as it gave more character and hilarity to the already great cast. I enjoyed every minute of it, and I wanted more, and more. Needless to say, I enjoyed playing this game, and I'm so grateful that it is one of the most well-known games of the series outside of Blazing Sword. What would I change to Fire Emblem Awakening? Adding my waifu Priscilla into the game? In all seriousness aside, there are a few things that I would do to improve the game. First, make the Grimleal the primary villains. Make them have a reason for wanting to bring back Grima besides, we need a final boss. Make the cult have like a nihilistic attitude, and have that be the motive since they care not about their own deaths, and they care not about their fellow man. Second, make the Grimleal make known influences wherever they go when you see them. Make the player see the effects of the Grimleal towards the continent. Make them see the chaos caused by the Grimleal with their attitudes. And since Tiki is in the story, make her and Naga help stop the chaos instead of Naga just powering the blade to slay Grima. Tiki joins in a parallel chapter, so it's good. Third, make the game harder. Seriously, the game needs to be a little more genuinely and challenging. Outside of horrible map design being the challenge like in another certain Fire Emblem game for the 3DS. And those would be my changes to the game overall. Fire Emblem Awakening is a great game, and it's hard not to see why it turned out to be such a huge hit. With its lovable characters, fun gameplay, decent at worst story, and just overall fun factor, I love Fire Emblem Awakening, and I would honestly give it an 8 out of 8.10.